name's Ilse Hampton. I'm the CEO of Meaningful Aging Australia, and I'd also especially like to welcome Majabeen Ahmad, who's here to launch our new resource. And we have with us also Brian Holmes at the office there supporting everyone this afternoon. So I'll say a few words, then we'll hear from Majabeen, then I'll wrap up and we'll have a chance then for a little bit of dialogue if you'd like to have a short conversation. You can also put questions into the chat. We will look at those questions at the end as well. Or if there are things that you'd like to know but didn't have a chance to raise today, you can always email us admin@meaningfulage.org.au. So as we begin today, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the very many lands where we are. So please hold in mind, and if you would like to put in the chat, you're very welcome to put the name of the traditional owners of whose lands you are on today. So for me here in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, it's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. And in particular from Meaningful Aging Australia, we honour the spiritual strength of Australia's First Peoples. And it is just wonderful to think how many First Peoples we can hold in mind today. We've got such a diverse group and indeed an international group, which leads me to the start of talking about our project. I'm going to do a bit of a screen share now, so just bear with me. So here we are, coming together to launch the Multi-Faith Practices Guide. This guide is something that we could see there was a gap. It seems quite strange, really, when you think about what an incredibly multicultural society we are, that we would have this gap in terms of something fairly succinct and accessible, particularly for aged care services. We know it can get very complex, and there's a richness and a complexity there that we're not able to address in this because we've deliberately kept it brief. It's a summary resource to begin a conversation, something that organisations and staff can use with individuals and their families to explore then what their faith means for them and how you should be responding as part of care services. So I knew that we needed something like this. And then I was really amazed to find that some colleagues in Canada had actually developed what we needed, but for the Canadian context. And when you get your hands on the guide, you'll see their acknowledgement, their logos on the back. So it's Conrad Grebel University College and the Research Institute for Ageing over in Waterloo. And hi to Jane, I can see is on the call today, and other colleagues that may be on the call. So they had developed something that was really then became the groundwork for us and saved us a lot of time and effort. So our members, we're a membership-based not-for-profit, as many of you know. Our members have put resources into then developing this Australian version, and we've had so much assistance from so many people from different faith groups, and also kind of subsets within those faith groups. So in the Christian tradition, we call them denominations. So we've had lots of contributions to people from lots of different angles so that we can be confident that the content is something that you can rely on as a starting point for your work with people from a range of faith backgrounds. So we've really worked with those faiths that are the major religions in Australia. Of course, there is more than this, but again, in an effort to make it accessible and not too lengthy, we've focused on these groups. So you can see Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, and Sikhism. And right at the beginning of the guide, we've brought together some key principles that people from each of those different groups kept on repeating to us as something that's really important. So where there was very clear shared view, we've pulled that to the front. So you can see it's visually really quite lovely. We've been absolutely delighted actually with the design, and you can see here the overall structure. So there's a little bit of a summary of beliefs and values, some more explanation around core beliefs, holy days, rituals, other important occasions, anything that's particularly relevant to later in life, care during illness, and then also some end of life. And then we've got some readings and prayers. And this is something that can be especially useful if the person would like you to share in some readings and prayers with them, but you're just not sure, what to use. Again, it's about a discussion and checking with the older person and quite often their family about which ones would be appropriate. But they're all here for you to be able to work with. So I'm going to hand over now to Mujabeen Ahmad, who works with us sometimes. We're very fortunate to have Mujabeen as part of our education team. And also Mujabeen's done a lot of independent work as an advocate and consultant around support for the Islamic community who are accessing aged care services and a whole lot more. She doesn't want to talk too much about herself. She really hates talking about herself. So I did want to just mention it, and we'll put the link up a bit later, that Mujabeen's written a comprehensive guide to supporting people from an Islamic background who are accessing aged care. So this is a lovely starting point, and it will give you some introductory information. But if you really want more details, there's a wonderful free resource on our website, which Brian will put the link in the chat later on in the session. So Mujabeen, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thank you, Elsa. Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from Adelaide. I would like to start by congratulating Meaningful Aging Australia on the launch of this very much needed multi-faith practice guidelines for the aged care sector. I would also take this opportunity to thank Elsa Hampton, the CEO of Meaningful Aging Australia, for taking the initiative to bring out this Australian edition of this very important resource. Now, why are such resources important for us? Let me put some context. A large majority of us in Australia are either affiliated with an organized body of religion or with some form of spirituality. However, in a secular environment, religion often becomes the elephant in the room, or it is not given its due place while designing and delivering services and care. We must, and we can do so much better than this. And then there's the growth in other religions. While Christianity is still the predominant religion in Australia, our religious landscape has been shifting over the decades. So we have seen an increase in other non-Christian religions such as Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, and Sikhism. Alongside, of course, an increase in the number of people who report no religious affiliation. With so much of religious diversity in the country, I think it is imperative for us to develop our knowledge of other faith traditions and practices, so that we are not only able to provide equitable and culturally appropriate services and care to those we serve, but also it will help us to develop better understanding of people from other faith backgrounds who we interact with in our daily lives. We are so blessed to enjoy religious freedom in Australia, but at the same time, we have so much work to do in terms of supporting religious inclusion. For ensuring religious inclusion, we need to develop and strengthen the cultural capability of provider organizations and their staff so that they can build an environment of cultural safety where everyone will feel free and safe to express their identity and to live their culture without the fear of being judged or ridiculed or undermined or ignored or left behind. And we know that cultural safety has been strongly emphasized under consumer dignity and choice, which is the standard one under the aged care quality standards. And since cultural safety is underpinned by recognition and respect for another person's culture and background, the resource that we will be launching in a moment will go a long way in helping us to embark on that journey into the world of other cultures and faith traditions. On behalf of Meaningful Aging Australia, I have the honor and the great pleasure to launch this new resource, Multi-Faith Practices, Guidelines for Community and Residential Aged Care. Thank you.
We can do a silent clap. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marjabeen. You saw Marjabeen was holding it up. No, here's my copy. So you can see it's quite colourful, and again, you know, it's not something that's going to weigh you down. In fact, it should help you to feel lighter as you feel more equipped to work with more people. And thank you, Marjabeen, again for those wonderful words. So in terms of accessing the guide, because we're funded through membership fees, and so it's our members that have paid for this, it's available first to our members. Our members can access it in two forms. One is as a PDF, so you can share it within your organisation, and the other one is the hard copy, which you've seen here, which you can have for free as a member, one per location. This is the example of the website in terms of how you navigate to where it is. You can also use the search function. You can see there's some dollars on it. So in 6 months' time, it will be available for sale to anyone who would like to buy it for $20, which includes GST and postage. So we've tried really hard to keep that cost down for you. And before I wrap up the formalities, I'd really like to take a moment to acknowledge the very many people that have contributed. Of course, we have the original Canadian authors, and then we have all of the Australian contributors. So you can see them there, and also you can certainly see them when you access the resource. But it's been a very important collaborative process for us to really work through and make sure that the content is contextualised for Australia, and also that it's something that can be applied in the context of community and residential aged care. So do stay in touch with us if you're not already. We will connect with you via our newsletter. If you don't want to receive the newsletter, please just unsubscribe when it comes through. It's once a month. And then, of course, our various social media channels.